Hey everybody, we in another episode of Say Word Podcast. I got NBA legend, Kentucky sharpshooter legend, Mr. Tony Delk.
With the 16th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Tony Delk.
Here's Delk. Oh, he can extend.
It comes to Delk with the baseline pop. What a performance by Tony Delk tonight. The best we've ever seen here in Arco.
Tony Delk. A three.
Hey, the Hawks got a shot here. Delk from midcourt at the buzzer. Yes! Tony Delk nails a three.
Tony Delk, how's it going today, my man?
Brother, I'm doing well, man. Just enjoying this nice day outside, just relaxing and no complaints, man. Still trying to live my best basketball life, and some of those moments come back when I'm in the gym training with some of my kids. So I'm just sitting back and enjoying the day.
First of all, let me just say I just appreciate you coming to check in with us on the show. Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man. I'd just like to say I appreciate you checking in, and thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime.
Let me just get into some things that's going on with the world right now. You being a African American professional athlete, do you feel like athletes supposed to and have a responsibility to use their platform? What's going on with social injustice right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this is a time where former and current players of all sports, especially, of our culture, it's time for us to speak up and, speak about things that we're knowledgeable about. It's not like we want to dive deep into politics. It's something that most of us won't be familiar with. But when it comes to the history and the culture of Black men and women, I think we need to speak up. And it was a tragedy that we had to witness with George Floyd and so many others, men and women who have died, not only this year, but in the past years, is that, when that happened, the world was at a standstill. And I've always known about it. And I think, I've never at one point in time, never thought about, the history of my ancestors and what my parents had to go through. And even some of the racism that I endured as a young kid, growing up in a small town of Brownsville, Tennessee, and seeing that there was places that the Black men and women, we couldn't go into restaurants. So it was something that I was a part of. But I think when you're in it, you become immune to it. And you just live your life and, and not really try to be involved if it doesn't really concern you. But this was something that I think concerned a lot of people, not only the African-American people, but I think it was a lot of other cultures that sat back and watched and was like, wow, if that's what Black Lives Matter means, then we understand. We have a better understanding of what they're talking about when they say Black Lives Matter.
I definitely appreciate your answer. It's a lot of stuff going on with the NBA right now. We're going to Orlando for the, I guess the quote-unquote bubble league. What's your opinion? Like you got some of the players say they want to go, then you got some of the players say like I don't want to go. Let me just ask you, would you go play right now? Just give me just like your brief breakdown of that situation.
Man, I love basketball, man. So I would be there. There ain't no doubt about it, man. I'll be there as soon as the gym open up. I'm one of them dudes that, man, I'm in. Count me in. There's no question about how much I love the game, but it's definitely risky for some of those guys that have underlying health conditions. And with me having the sickle cell trait, I don't know how it would affect it myself. I know there are some guys that do have sickle cell trait. And with me having two daughters who have sickle cell disease, I would have to consider the health and the well-being of them before I make that decision. So it's a little bit different if you have kids and if your parents are older and, when you go there, of course, you're making a sacrifice yourself, but, it's a sacrifice that some of us had to make as parents, but also to prolong your career, but also do something that you love and that you've been doing since you've been a little kid. So it'll be hard for me not to want to be there and not to compete and just to, basketball has brought so much pleasure and so much joy to my life that, I'm one of those guys that as soon as they say, hey, the season is activated, I will be in.
It's so interesting. I ask this question to all the players, and I get different answers from everybody. Like it's like, I know you guys are like competitors, so you guys want to play no matter what. Like no matter what. it's just crazy though, like the different answers that I get with everything. And it's so interesting, man. I mean, I just want to, in this time of day with Corona going on, I mean, I want to see more basketball. I'm not gonna. I mean, we would love to see some basketball. And
I think we would. You know,
right now.
yeah, you know, and the thing is too is just getting something on TV that outside of Netflix, man. I've kind of watched so much Netflix, man. I'm
tired
like
of
into all these
Netflix.
different series, but you know, as an athlete, man, and just loving sports, man. I just love turning on TV and seeing some football, basketball. And I was telling a good friend, I said, man, I'm excited about seeing the baseball season.
Yeah,
and I never get excited.
Something.
Hey, I was even watching a little soccer, man. I was like, man, I gotta be bored, man. But you know what? When you love sports, and that's something that most of us grew up playing, man. It's just seeing it on TV, and even myself, you know, when our gym finally opened up, I was able to go in and kind of, you know, play around with the kids, get some shots up, and kind of instruct them on some things that would help them, but also letting them know that, you know, this is a different summer. I said summer months are the months where, as a player, I improved because I didn't have to go to school. I had to worry about, you know, waking up at a certain time.
You work on your game.
I devoted, when I tell you, I devoted like 6-7 hours a day to basketball. I would get on my bike. I would ride across town, play. I would hoop there. I would ride back to another neighborhood, play some more. So I would just, on my bike, constantly just riding around, you know, Brownsville, Tennessee, you know, hooping at whatever gym, not even gym, whatever backyard or a home court that was available. Man, I went and played on that court. You know, it didn't matter about the color of that person's skin. You know, I would just knock on somebody's door and say, hey, you know what? See a ball out there. Can I go hoop? And, you know, I was never denied. So that's the one thing I will say about my hometown was people always opened their door to me. And I was blessed to have so many people that were concerned, not knowing what my future would hold, but just allowing me as a young Black kid to know that, okay, this is someone who really wants to advance his career, but also someone that, you know, he means well. You know, he's just a guy that loves basketball. And it's hard for me to deny a kid if I had a basketball goal and I was an older gentleman and a kid knocked on my door, he wanted to play hoops outside my yard. Man, go have it. Go at it.
I was going to touch on that. I was reading that you are from Brownsville, Tennessee. You went to Haywood High School. Just touch up on how was it growing up out there? Who put the basketball in your hand, and what that town means to you growing up out there? And you're Mr. Tennessee basketball. Am I correct?
Yes, I did. I ended up winning that award. But, you know, I think the town of Brownsville, you know, was great to me. I love it. Every time I do interviews, I'm always going to mention my hometown. But really, who put the ball in my hands were my brothers, you know, Ricky, David, and Leslie. And I spent more time with my brother Leslie. He was the one that really didn't get a chance to shine and show how he could play the game. He had an injury early in high school. And my other two brothers got a chance to go to Lambert College. And they played their collegiate basketball at Lambert College in Jackson, Tennessee. But I think what my brother Les did was the game that he would have had, he installed and put all of that into me. So everything we worked on were things that he would have been as a player, you know, from posting up to being a mid-range shooter, putting the ball on the floor, actually putting the ball on the dirt because I was in the backyard on the dirt court, so I didn't have hardwood. But we really spent countless hours just playing and shooting and just him teaching me the game. You know, when you have an older sibling that can advance your learning thought process, that's what my brothers did for me. So when I was playing against my peers, I was already ahead of them, you know, just from what they had taught me. And that was the one thing I really benefited from, was having older siblings teach me the game at the collegiate level when I was only in middle school.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely an advantage to have older brothers, older cousins that kind of give you the game before you even start in the game. It's definitely a blessing. So when you left Haywood, when you left Tennessee, I mean, you went to the legendary Kentucky. Just give me a little example of how the recruiting process was, because Kentucky is like the school of all schools. We all know that, especially in the 90s. That was like the school.
Yeah, you know, it started with Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan was the one that really started recruiting me as a sophomore. You know, he took interest in me early, and he would send me so many letters and phone calls to my family, my brothers, my mom. He was constantly involved with a lot of communication with my family, and I really didn't know a lot about Kentucky at the time. I grew up being a Memphis State at the time, University of Memphis. Now
I was gonna ask you that. I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah. I was a
Like,
Memphis State fan. Like I go back to Keith Lee,
yeah,
Baskerville Home, Elliot Perry. Those are my guys. Even Penny Hardaway. Yeah,
yeah.
those are players that because I was closer to Memphis. I was only about a 40-minute drive from Memphis. So those players I had heard of, grew up, hearing about them in high school. And Kentucky still wasn't one of the top schools, though. I think it became one of the top schools when I took a trip to Memphis. Penny was my host when I went to visit Memphis State. Then I went and visited Arkansas, which had a good time with those guys. Corder Williamson was a good friend of mine from the AAU circuit. And Mike Anderson, Nolan Richardson, which my mom really really revered as a really good college coach and someone that she thought would have been a really good mentor, good father figure to me. Although I had my dad, it wasn't like I was missing a pops. Now my dad was in my life until the day he passed. But I think when I took that trip to Lexington, Kentucky, and with the Midnight Madness, man, I was sold. Just how avid the fans were, how much time they spent, just being a part of the brand of Kentucky, because that Midnight Madness had 1,000 people waiting for a midnight game. And I didn't understand. I'm like, man, these people got to be crazy. How can you be waiting out all, for weeks to watch a free game that is just your first college practice? And when I left there, I remember getting back home and I called Billy Dunham. I said, hey, you know what? I want to sign now, but I have a couple more visits I want to take. I want to visit, of course, my state school, Tennessee, and I want to take one more visit to and visit Georgia Tech. But he said, hey, you know what, coaches, we had 5 guys come in. He said, I think everyone is going to commit. And he said, and I don't think he's going to save a scholarship. But, I'm thinking like, man, I'm one of the top players in the country. How are you not going to save a scholarship for me? But long story short, I just went on, and when I just made my decision, and I was like, man, you know what, I'm going to commit to Kentucky. But it wasn't your traditional me transition right from high school to college and playing right away. I had to sit the bench. I thought about transferring. I had to finish that season out to make my mind up, decide if I want to stay with the University of Kentucky or transfer to another school. And it was the best decision that I ever made, was just staying at the University of Kentucky.
Man, that Kentucky squad I had, I remember I grew up in New York, and Mike James is my cousin that played in the NBA. So.
Oh yeah, I know Mike James. Yeah.
Yes. So that's like me and him. We like brothers. So man, that Kentucky squad I had, epic squad. I remember y'all went to the Final Four. You won. I think you won MVP that year, right? At the Final Four.
Yeah.
Most outstanding player. Just explain playing for the Kentucky Wildcats. Well, like we see, we're basketball fans, so we kind of understand the tradition. Just playing for that school, just being the top player, and y'all had a squad. Let's just be real.
Right.
Y'all had a all-NBA squad. Just explain that experience.
I think it was some great practices, man. If you had been a scout or just a fan, just to come in and watch how hard we practice. And, you have to contribute that to the leader of that team, which was Coach Pitino. We practiced like it was our last practice, like we were never going to play basketball again. And it was so competitive when you have players like Derek Anderson, Ron Mercer, Walter McCarty, Antoine Walker, Anthony Epps, Jeff Shepard, Nazir Muhammad, Wayne Turner. I mean, the list goes on and on. I can just keep naming guys, man, because even going back to when I was a junior, Roger Rose was one of the top players in the country before he transferred to USC. We had so many good players, but there was so much talent, and we had to sacrifice. All of us had to sacrifice, some of our scoring in order to be a complete team. And you have to give a lot of credit to the coach to be able to manage all those personalities, and all of us trying to pursue a career, of being an NBA player in time, but also knowing we have to take care of our college responsibilities and stay focused, because there's so much going on when you're on the college campus, and especially when you're at the University of Kentucky. Like, everybody look up to you, and you constantly doing interviews, and so many people are trying to get in your circle of friends. And, so there were a lot of distractions, but he kept us focused by telling us, hey, you know what? We want to be a part of history. And to be a part of history, you got to give up some things. And that's what we did, having so many great players there. We all understood that in order for us to be a part of history, we all got to give up something and stay focused on the big picture. And that was trying to win a championship and cut down those nets.
Explain that championship run in 1996 when you guys took it off.
It was a great run. We started out, I think we played Maryland early. We played UMass, who had returned all their players. After we won the first game, lost to UMass, we went on a 27-game win streak. And it was, when I tell you, unbelievable run, it was an unbelievable run. We got a chance to, go on the road and basically silence so many fans. And when we finally got through that run, we made it to the SEC tournament and we ran into Mississippi State, who we had beat previous in the year. So they was ready to prepare for us. And, it was going to be a tough battle because it was a team that was similar to us, not with all the talent, but the styles of play and how we played defense. And losing that game, it really rebooted us. It got us back on track, and not to say not to say it humbled us. We was always going to be a humble team anyway because of our leadership and how hard we worked. But, we lost that game and, we knew we could lose. So it's like you can win so many games and you can get to a point where you can lose. But if you lose in a tournament, NCAA tournament, it's over with. There ain't no, ain't no chance of like, we can come back and do this again. So losing that SEC championship game was probably the best loss we had. And then as we went on to win the next 6 games, we ran into the UMass team in the semifinals who had beaten us earlier. So we were ready to play them. And I had played Syracuse 3 of my 4 years at Kentucky, my freshman, sophomore, and my junior year. So I was ready to play against that zone. But, we knew we had to go out there and deliver. Although, we've had such a great run, you can't get to the championship game and lay an egg. But what we did, I will say this, of all the games we played and won that year, the 34 games we won, that might have been one of the worst wins in the championship game because we missed so many shots, and some of that could have been from nerves, when you get to that final game.
The worst win?
Yeah, it was, man. Yes, we went back about 3 years ago. We had our reunion, and when we went back, we were just thinking like, man, watching the game, like I missed like 4 or 5 layups. We had some bad turnovers. It wasn't one of our, when I look at games, it wasn't one of our crisp games. It was like a game where, man, we won, we were satisfied, but I wasn't satisfied.
Okay. That's amazing. Definitely amazing. And you guys, like I said, I always remember that squad y'all had. Y'all had like a killer squad. It's amazing squad. So you leave Kentucky, you come to the NBA in 1996. Arguably to my opinion, the best draft class ever.
Right.
I've never seen a draft class like this, and you know what I'm trying to say. Let's just be real. That draft class is ridiculous.
It was loaded, man. And the problem I had was like I wish some of the underclassmen had stayed, man. Because that would have made that would have made on the selfish side that would have made me a lottery pick. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I was one of the top players in the country at that time.
I believe that. That's true.
So if you take out like an AI or Ray Allen,
Stephon
Marbury, even Antoine Walker, Lorenzen Wright, I can go down the list of guys like Kobe Bryant. I can go down the list. Peja Stojakovic. Man, there were so many guys that could have stayed another year in college, and that would have made me like a top 5 draft pick. So we would be talking about me not being the 16th pick, but would have been one of the top players in the country. But like I said, it was a loaded draft with so much talent, man. So all pretty much every team had a great draft pick, and it was about us living up to our potential.
I had it's funny because I had the poster of you guys from that draft class on my wall. The 1996 draft class. Like you was in the picture. It was that draft class. You look at that class, anybody, it could have went any way. Like honestly.
Yeah, it could have been.
Let's just be real.
It could have been like whatever team needed, But you also got to look during that time. It was, the league was still full of veterans. You know what I'm saying? So the guys who got drafted by the guys who were lottery picks or who were got drafted by teams that were out of the playoff. Some of those guys got a chance to play earlier. So that's the difference than being a lottery pick, knowing that, okay, they drafted 2 and 3 or 3, 4, 5, 6 or whatever, is you're going to play right away. But for the guys that got drafted later, you really have to earn your time, because you had guys in front of you and you got drafted by playoff teams. So that's something else that people don't factor in, that the teams that draft, 1 through 13 are teams that they need those players, and those players probably going to come in and play a lot earlier than the guys that are going to be drafted in the mid-first round to early second round.
I wanted to touch on that for a little bit. Like when you got drafted, you was drafted by Charlotte. Just explain like your rookie year, just that NBA transition, and just the playing time, because you always been like the guy on your team, like wherever you kind of been the guy on your team. So just explain to the young NBA prospects, a lot of the young guys watch the show, just how to stay confident, how to stay ready, and just how to go about that in situations where sometimes it could kind of mentally deter you from things. Let's just be real.
Right. I think, I faced like that kind of adversity, at Kentucky, like my first year of not playing a whole lot. So it was a matter of minutes, waiting your opportunity. But like you said, being prepared. A lot of times players aren't prepared because they're thinking, okay, well, I don't know when my number's going to be called. But, it's such a long season. Guys going to get injured. Things are going to happen. So I always took care of my body. Like I say, even to this day, I don't drink and smoke, but I love my game. So even though I wasn't playing a lot, the early stages when I was in Charlotte, is I still was coming to still arriving to the arena early, come to practice, staying late. I was doing things that when it came, I was ready. I would be able to step on the court, and still, it's still a lot different from playing to practicing. And when you're practicing, you still practicing as a great player. When you step on the court every night, it's so competitive, and it's another level of intensity that I can't even explain to you. When I think about the level of intensity, it comes from practicing to playing a game. And I would exert so much energy in games that I almost needed the next day off because I played that hard.
And just explain, a lot of people that don't actually play basketball, but it's a lot of basketball fans. Explain the transition from high school to college to the NBA. Just the physical, the tempo of the game, just the physicality, and like and you play both positions, the point guard and the two guard. Like, how was that transition? How was that transition?
Well, the transition was harder probably at the highest level, at the NBA level. Like high school, because I was such a good scorer and I was put in position to score, my transition was just that freshman year and knowing that I was going to run through mass burn. It took me to realize that I wasn't ball as much as I did the previous 2 years in high school because of who our offense running through mass burn. So that was kind of a struggle for me my first year too, is not really getting to showcase my ability to score. But as left in the next 3 years, I was able to, to really force my will on opponents as far as scoring and also being a better defensive player. So also I got better playing defense in college than I were in high school. I played defense in high school, but I had to become a better defender in college or I wasn't going to play, So it's like, this is how you're going to get on the court. But also that gave me a career because I could defend multiple positions, but also guard guys like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, guys who were taller because of my long arms, my jumping ability, because I was an athletic 6'1" guy. But trying to play the point guard on the NBA level was tough because it's really managing the time, being a coach on the court, being a facilitator, getting other guys involved, not thinking about myself, and then being able to run a pick and roll, which I was better without the pick and roll. I could score without the pick and roll. The pick and roll is an offense that, you have to see the weak side. You have to be able to make plays, on the ball, but also be able to make a lot of reads. And I struggled to make reads because I was used to playing one-on-one, taking my man. Then if somebody would step up, I can make that pass. But when you run a pick and roll, it's trying to create mismatch, but also trying to find the different reads and being able to make a good and solid decision And that's where I kind of struggled at in the NBA my first few years until I got with guys like Steve Nash and Jason Kidd to kind of see how they ran that position.
Okay, you played on multiple teams in the NBA. What city did you enjoy the most playing at? Like, what team did you enjoy playing at the most?
Phoenix Suns, man. Like there ain't no question. Like I still love Phoenix to this day, man. Might have to take a trip out there this year just to get away from, what's going on here in Atlanta. But it was, I guess it was a different atmosphere. When you grow up in the South, you don't get a chance to really enjoy the desert and the stucco homes. And I really just enjoyed I want to say my senior year, we did the Desert Classic out there, which invited all the top seniors. And I remember being there, and we was there for about a week. And I just fell in love with it then. I was like, if I ever become a free agent, which when I left Sacramento, I was a free agent. And I remember meeting with Jerry Colangelo and Brian Colangelo, who was running that organization. And I already knew, I was going to sign with them before I even left Phoenix, So I was like, man, I'm coming here. And although I had a wonderful time, a wonderful one-year run in Sacramento, I think if Sacramento had offered me the 6-year deal that Phoenix did offer me, I would have never left Sacramento because that team chemistry was unbelievable, man. And you just don't. And I felt like it reminded me of Kentucky, but it was either a 2-year deal or a 6-year deal. And at that time, I wanted more guarantee because my first 3 years were Charlotte, got traded to Golden State, was there for 2 years, signed a 2-year deal with a player option in Sacramento. And I knew 6 year would give me, regardless of me getting traded and moved around, I was going to have 6 years of guaranteed money that I can bank on. So I had to make a business decision.
Let me ask you a question. Do you remember this date? You remember January 2nd, 2001?
Oh, yeah, man. How can I forget that?
Explain.
That was one of my most historical games, during my playing career.
Explain that game. Explain a game like that. Do you go into that game thinking you're gonna score 53 points, or is it just like you just?
No, not really. Because I've always been a scorer. Even dating back to high school, like summertime, I always put that ball in the hole. That was the one thing that I enjoyed doing was scoring. But on that particular night, it was me staying up all night, playing cards with a friend and midnight, have my pregame meal, being tired at walkthrough. I was like, man. But it was also my second return back to Sacramento after leaving them the year before. And the game before that, I had like 24. And I think I want to, if I can go back in time, I had like maybe 17 points in the second half of that game. So Arco Arena was the best shooting arena that I think I played in. And not just because I had the 53 points, just being there as a player, and our practices took place in the Arco Arena. So when you can practice and play games in the same arena, your shooting improves and gets better. I don't think people really understand how important that is that if we can practice and play games in the same arena, I mean, my shooting was through the roof, man. And for me to return back there and have a great game, it was going to happen because I practiced shot so many times in the Arco Arena. And that was one of the reasons why, even dating back to college, I wish we had to play games in Memorial Coliseum. That's where we practiced that for 4 years. If we would have had 1 or 2 games in that arena, I'm telling you, I very seldom missed in that arena. Like, that arena was the best shooting arena that I've ever played in. Well, gym, you call it gym or arena, but it's Memorial Coliseum, right on campus, and we practiced there. And I'm telling you, like, I felt like every shot I took was going in.
Man, I mean, that's amazing. I remember that game too when you scored 53 points. And like you said, you always been a scorer, but to do it like on the NBA level is just that's a level that you would never ever forget. Playing against them type of guys, the talent level. I mean, it's a difference. It's definitely a difference.
It is. And plus, it's against a former team, that you had played, probably we just played them like maybe a month or two before that game took place. And just to go back and be laser focused. But, it happened where it wasn't like when you see guys get 50, 60 points, like the passes are constant. Like the passes are constantly coming to them. They're like the focal point. Like, even though I got my points, I wasn't the focal point in that game. I was just making shots. And when you're making shots, it wasn't like, okay, we came down the court, they went to me 6-7 times in a row. It didn't happen that way. And that's what people don't understand, that if you were to watch that game from start to finish, is that I got my points in the flow of the offense where it wasn't like, okay, we're going to go to Tony 5-6 times here. Rodney Rogers got his shot. Sean Marion was getting his shots. Jason still got his shots up. Everybody was still shooting, and Cliff Robinson, another shooter. We had a bunch of shooters around me, and it wasn't like them guys would say, hey, man, we going to Tony tonight. He's hot. He's feeling it tonight.
Yeah. That's totally amazing. I know you're still watching the game right now. What do you think about the game right now? I mean, because you kind of like was ahead of your time. Like when you came out in '96, it wasn't a guard league back then. Now, can you imagine Tony Delk playing right now with the way like the Westbrooks, the Derrick Roses, how to go? Come on, because you was kind of like that. You was kind of like
man.
that.
I don't even want to think about that, man, because that means my bank account is $100 million short right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when I think about it, man, I love where the game is at. I love the positionless game. There's so many great guards that I enjoy watching, and I just sit back and watch, man, and wish my mom had me not in '74, but like in '94. You know, '94. Because I know I would do damage. You know, you can't put your hands on players now. I was such a good mid-range to three-point shooter. I could post up. I finished around the basket. There were so many things that would allow me to be successful and have made a lot of money, and not, making a lot of money is not the one thing.
It helps though.
I would contribute to the game, but it helps, it helps put my kids and my family in a much better situation, and I was blessed to have made a lot of money. So I'm not going to be ungrateful here and say, man, but how they play now is tailor-made for my game and would allow me to even have more success, and just, really enjoy, the fruits of my labor. Because when I played, you think about how the 90s were, it was more about the power forward and the center. Yeah. So you really didn't have those driving lanes. And also, it was like them dudes didn't move. They were like, well, if you want to drive, you're going to drive right into my man. But the way the game is now, 4s and 5s are stretched. You have your stretch 4s and stretch 5s. So the court is open up. And the way the game is, you can't touch a player. I'm like, oh, my God, that's going to allow me to drive at will.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing. Like I always talk to Steve Francis, and he always say like, man, it's crazy. Back in the day, they wouldn't let the guards even score like this. But nowadays, it's like the guards are dropping like 30, average 30 a game. Like it's like in our era, we couldn't even do things like that. And it's basketball has definitely changed. With like just like, do you think the players are a little bit more less talented now though? And you guys like.
No,
because you guys are fundamental basketball players. Like you guys could do everything. You guys could like let me just give you guys credit. You guys could do everything. I remember this. It's like nowadays the guys, and I talk to a lot of the young guys all the time. They're so super athletic. Sometimes with them being so athletic, it kind of takes away from the fundamental side of basketball.
Right, but I'm not going to take credit away from the hard work that these guys put in. I think being an old school player now, I don't want to hate on the young generation. I think they've done a great job of carrying the torch and keeping the torch lit. But the game has expanded, from an international game more now. You're seeing more international players come in and be successful because of how the game has changed. It's not as physical as it was when I came in. And they wanted scoring to go up. They wanted to see players showcase their talent and their abilities. And you can't really do that if the court is being shrunk by a center and a power forward being stuck on the low blocks. They want the game to open up. And what it did was I thought it brought more fans in. It was an exciting game to watch. And I still enjoy watching because it is an exciting game to see your 4-man put the ball on the floor, take a guy off the dribble, and
it's amazing.
Dunk the ball, a 5 guy that's a stretch 5 and knocking down threes. And we have to think the international game. I think in 2004 we ended up losing, I think to Greece. And what they did was even some of those games we lost, during LeBron and Carmelo and D-Wade younger years, was they figured out we can't beat them with physicality. But what we can do is we can take our 4s and 5s and bring their 4s and 5s out the paint. And now we can open up and play with good guards, with talented guards, just as American guards were. Because those guards back then were just as good, at driving and making shots. But it's hard when you got our centers down there. And our centers were definitely clogging up the lane, but also they were really good defenders. So they helped change our game because of their stretch forward and five and taking our guys out and neutralizing what we're really good at is keeping our bigs down low and protecting the paint. So they started taking us out the paint, which really helped the game because it expanded the game to a point where you start seeing more scoring, but also fours and fives with their talent, their ability to be able to draw us out, but also to be able to make plays and help their guards out.
In the era you played, Kobe Bryant was probably arguably like the best player in that era. And you guys came out in that initial draft class. How was it playing against Kobe Bryant?
He was a fierce competitor, man, and it's hard for me still to believe that he's not here. His tragic death, but his approach is kind of like Michael Jordan. He was a guy that was focused, man, and what I mean by focus, he loved the game so much that he gave his whole life to basketball. You can just tell by the injuries that he had, how he bounced back, how he approached it every night. He had the same approach as Michael Jordan, is that when you saw me for the first time, I left you in awe. You're going to remember who I am. You might not ever see me again, but when you came to watch Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, those guys performed like it was their last time performing ever. And when you can do that for a length of time, it speaks volume for how much detail, for how much love, but also being a student of the game. To be able to carry the torch like a Michael Jordan, it spoke volume for what Kobe, how much he cared about the game of basketball. Not what people, not always about the money, the fame to come along with it. It was like, man, I want people when they see me to fall deeper in love with basketball, and that's how you had to approach it when you came and watched the Michael Jordan, you came and watched the Kobe Bryant or Larry Bird, like some of these great players. Is that when you left the arena, you was like, man, I got my money worth out of this game.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm about to put you on the spot real fast. I only got a couple more questions for you. I like to put the players on the spot. Give me the probably your toughest opponent, the guy that you had to play against that you probably were just like, man, I don't feel like playing against this guy tonight.
I mean, I was always up for a challenge. Like I didn't back down from anyone, whether it was Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, AI. It didn't matter the opponent. So I never was fearful of anyone, because when I went against my brothers at 13, 14, they were like 30-year-old men. Like, man, them dudes beat me down. Like if I would say anyone, man, it would be like, man, playing against my brothers, man. I was like, man, dudes about to beat me, about to beat me again. So I had to go back to my brothers. I never had fear of no NBA player. Even when I played against Michael the first time, I was excited and I was ready to play against him. But, I think playing against my brothers, man, them dudes where every day I woke up, I was like, man, which brother can I beat today? And it took me a while to beat them. So, my toughest opponents were probably my brother Leslie for a few years of not being able to beat him. But when I finally beat my oldest brother who lived in Atlanta, and then I went back home and I was able to beat my brother Les. So I would say my brother Leslie was my toughest opponent.
Okay, out of you guys brothers, who's the best brother? If you on the outside looking in, who's the best brother? The brother that you be like, man, Tony went to the NBA, but like, who's the best brother in your eyes?
Man, I got a chance to see Ricky, my brother Ricky, late. And I think Ricky had a complete game. He was still an athlete at that time. Had great size, could post up, good handles. So he might have been because of his height and his strength. But I still would say, because it took me so long to beat Les. And I couldn't figure his game out until I actually beat my brother Ricky, to go back and use what Ricky taught me to go back and beat my brother Leslie. And when I started beating my brother Leslie, then he never beat me anymore. But I had to figure out, it was like I had to go to one brother to get the blueprint on how to beat another brother. And then when I was able to beat him, then I was like, man, I have a rod. And I knew then my peers were not going to be able to beat me, because, them dudes, I was so well equipped, man, from all the knowledge and just playing against them and getting that experience that, that made it easy for me to go against my peers and even go against double teams and have, try and see boxing one, triangle and two men guard me. Man, I was like, man, I can beat my brothers. You dudes can't guard me.
Yo, that's amazing because you're basically saying that, like, as great as you are, like your brothers are like you're behind your brothers. That's like
Yes.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
that's super amazing. I'm gonna ask you a couple more questions. Give me your top 5 Kentucky players. Put you on the spot.
Top 5 would be Kenny Walker,
Okay.
Jack Goose Givens.
Okay.
Can't leave Dan Nelson off the list.
Okay.
I would have to put Jamal Mashburn in there.
Ooh,
And
New York. Yeah, we from New York. He from New
yeah,
York.
yeah, yeah. I have to put Mash
Yeah,
in
we
there,
New
man.
York.
And you know, and not to, and I gotta put, man, I'm gonna put myself in there only because I stayed 4 years. But when I look at the best collegiate season, it would have to be Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis won every award that was available. He won every award, but he had the best 1 year that I ever seen of any Kentucky player. You know, just winning Defensive Player of the Year, SEC Player of the Year, College Player of the Year, MOP.
Yeah,
I mean, number 1 draft pick. It goes. I mean, so many accolades, man. It was just unreal for that dude. But you know, I had to put myself in the top 5 from my body, from just not scoring, but just, you know, making 3-pointers, being one of the top NCAA scorers. You know, because when it came to the big games, I mean, I balled. But
Facts.
you know, and there are so many great players there, you know. So, but I still think when it comes to top 5, I would have to put myself in the top 5 based on my whole body work, just being able to not score, but also be able to play defense. I think sometimes that get left out when we had to play against really good teams. I had to guard the best player, and I took on that challenge.
And my last question is, like, give me your top 5 NBA players right now.
Top 5, current or past?
You give me current. Give me current.
Current would be, of course, LeBron.
Okay.
Got to put Steph in there.
Okay.
I would go with James Harden, Giannis.
Ooh.
And gosh, that 5th one is tough, man. I'm trying to decide who will be my 5th here.
You got Anthony Davis still there. Anthony Davis still there. You got
AD is still there.
There's a but. Are you about to say but?
Hey, man, I like Russell Westbrook. I like Dame. So you know what? Hey, I'm putting my Kentucky dude on the list, man. AD, man. I'm going with AD.
Okay.
Benjamin Franklin, my only friend. 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 Only friend. Only friend. Benjamin Franklin, my only friend. Only friend. Only friend. Benjamin Franklin, my 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 only friend. Only friend.